Financial support for the production of Issues in Education is provided by the Florida State University License Plate. Your FSU license plate supports scholarships for students who enrich and contribute to our communities. Special programs, gift certificates, and rebates for first-time buyers online at fsu.edu/mytag.
Coming up today on Issues in Education, a real-world opportunity becomes a learning experience for some Florida State film students. Welcome to Issues in Education. I'm Suzanne Smith, alongside my co-host, the Florida State University President, Dr. Eric Barron. This fall, FSU unveiled a brand new 30-second video to run on national television. The original goal was to show the country what Florida State is all about. However, it also ended up becoming an educational opportunity for some of the university's students when FSU film majors took on many of the roles behind the camera. Let's take a look at the finished product. The title of that video is called The Spirit of Florida State. Joining us to talk about how it all came together and the learning opportunity it provided are FSU film students John Wikstrom and Zach Johnson. Also here is Dr. Jeanette DeDeImar, Assistant Vice President of University Relations and Director of Integrated Marketing and Communications at FSU. Thank you all for joining us.
So Zach and John, you know, it's extremely unusual for students to be involved in the production of an institutional message. Tell us a little bit about what your roles were.
Well, John and I came onto this project together. John and I co-produced and co-directed this institutional spot, working with the communications department here. So, yeah.
What does co-direct and co-produce mean?
Well, originally we had both been assigned to one role just because that's how we've done projects in the past, and since this was the project that was a lot larger in scope than anything we had worked on, we would each go to other for advice about how should we do this with the camera? What should we do about this paperwork? And so the roles kind of just melded together. But we knew this conceit of making it about the horse, and that's what we had talked to about the dean of our film school, Frank Patterson. And we talked to Jeanette and Dennis, and we kind of hashed out a plan and a vision, and then we pitched it to you guys, and here we are with a 30-second commercial.
Well, before we get too much into that, let's talk about what the institutional message is, and that's what it's called. What is that all about?
Right. Well, that's a way of the university to better communicate, to align what people think of us, our image, with our identity, who we are. So you get 30 seconds to do that. That's a major challenge. So you have to align your expertise, hence the film school and these two fine students here, and understand what you need to do in 30 seconds. It's got to be compelling and memorable and authentic.
And so how did University Relations and the College of Motion Pictures get together?
Well, we just simply asked, and it was an opportunity that hadn't been explored before, and we're saying, why not? So went to Dean Frank Patterson, and with the attitude that creativity takes courage, and he recognized that as one of the best film schools in the country, and to align the expertise that was there. So it was just a simple question, can you do it?
And how did you two find out about it? Did you first, did they come to you and say, hey, you are some of our best, would you like to do it? Or did you say, hey, I heard about this, I want to do it?
It was interesting. We were actually in a meeting with Dean Patterson for a thesis script. I believe it was John's script, actually. Mm-hmm. And we were just talking about the movie, and then all of a sudden, Dean Patterson, as he sometimes does, he just sort of throws something out there, and he's like, you guys be interested in doing this?
Zach and I had worked on a commercial for Sprite, mm-hmm. with the Sprite Films program, and there was a lot of, producing, and it was of a similar scope of this, not quite as big, but essentially the line was, you can make a commercial for sugar water, right? You can do it for soda. Well, what if you did it for the university?
And do you see that as the direction you're going in life? Because I know you've done an excellent documentary that I really enjoyed watching.
Thank you.
But do you see yourself as producing commercials?
At this point, you know, it's all still up in the air, and I'm gonna see what opens up and what kind of good work I can get. But I'm still figuring that out.
Well, we've talked a little bit about how it got put together, but let's take a look at the actual day of production that you did. We have a behind-the-scenes video that University Communications did, and we're going to take a look at that right now.
Slates in, guys. Pictures up. Let's roll camera, please. Action. Yeah, that'll be amazing. That was good. That was a good take.
The institutional message is just the jargon for that 30-second spot that we get to show at football games and we use for other venues.
Roll camera.
My name is Zachary Johnson. I'm from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I'm a BFA film student here at the film school at the FSU, and I co-directed and co-produced this institutional spot with my good friend John Wikstrom.
Okay, awesome, great.
My name is John Wikstrom, and I co-directed and co-produced the institutional message, along with Zachary Johnson helming the rest of directing and producing with me, and Don, who was on the camera side of things.
And it's okay if he veers off at the end because we're cutting out of it before that.
My name is Don Menon. I was born in New York City and lived there until I came down here for college, and my role was a cinematographer in this institutional spot.
You guys ready? Ready. Yes, sir. All right. Let's go.
This is a story of creativity and inspiration. It's a story about Florida State University, who we are as an institution, and what we value. We wanted to take our iconic images that everyone's familiar with and combine them with our academic greatness.
We are setting up for Osceola getting on the horse.
And go Drake.
We also wanted to include our students, some of the finest in the country, from the Film School, College of Music, and School of Theater.
Let's see how that looks.
This is an opportunity for our students and for Florida State to really shine.
He's a good performer too. Even with good actors, it takes 4 or 5 takes.
Yeah, and usually they start demanding food after a bit. John and I came onto the project when we were approached by the dean of the film school to sort of further help visualize this project that the university was working on, and asked us to sort of co-direct this spot for the university, and of course we were on board all the way.
That was excellent with the spear. Yeah, it was perfect. Osceola and Renegade are not mascots. They are a symbol. And they are a good symbol because they embody the university's values of respect, competition, and preeminence.
What we hope this spot does is capture the essence of Florida State University, its students, its faculty, alumni, and demonstrates the values of Florida State University in a compelling and memorable visual way.
Our hope is when you watch this institutional message, you take away a greater sense of who Florida State University is.
Yeah.
All right, let's play it.
That looks nice.
By the way, FSU students also contributed the voiceover narration, the music, and the visual effects. This is a really nice added benefit that speaks highly of our students and our alumni.
Round of applause.
I think that'll work. Yeah. I think we succeeded in creating something compelling and different, something that people can really look at and say, I want to go to that school, or I'm a part of that university.
I think we pulled it off. We had a lot of talented people working on it, and I think it's going to be a bold and memorable university message, and I like it.
I think it's fantastic. Really feels like Florida State.
Okay, guys, this is a picture wrap for Renegade. Round of applause.
This is something that this institution can be really proud of.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That was an amazing video that you did. How many students were involved in this project?
We had about a total of 15 students at the film school who were operating in various roles on the project. You know, making anything of this magnitude takes a lot of different people coming together, and each person sort of taking on their own part and making it run smoothly and efficiently. So about 15.
Well, you know, it looks like you were inside, and of course, I don't think people looking at the end product think that you're inside. So where were you, and where did that dirt come from?
Well, we shot that in the soundstage at the film school, which is just a normal soundstage, just wooden floors, no dirt. So we had to manually bring in all of that dirt.
About 5 tons of it.
We ordered it from, I think it was a landscaping company.
Right. Now they were very, very confused about the situation. They're like, you're not landscaping? No, a horse needs to walk on it. So it was an interesting situation, but we were trying to create a very sort of neutral environment. You know, the idea that the spirit of Florida State University could exist anywhere. You know, it's not just in the football stadium, not just in the campus, but anywhere.
You talk about getting the dirt to bring in there. What other kind of things did you have to do to prep for this? Because we see the day of, but we don't see all the other stuff that leads up to it. So take us through from the beginning to this day, and then we'll talk about what happened after the day.
Well, once we were all on board with the idea, and we were all on the same page of this is what we wanted to accomplish, we had to figure out how are we going to light it, and from a production standpoint, make it happen and work with that large of an animal. Don Menon is our cinematographer. He did an incredible job, and one challenge that he had to work around was he couldn't light it like a traditional movie set because there's this large animal running around. So we had to rent, and we had to get a bunch of equipment that we don't normally use, so lights that hung from the ceiling and a giant backdrop that would be unobtrusive, and so we had to get a bunch of equipment that, you know, a lot of it was supplied by the film school, but there was some other stuff we had to get too. Right.
A lot of this equipment was rented with the intention of allowing us to shoot this commercial quickly because the main character is an animal, and they can only be on set for so long. So traditionally, you know, when you shoot a commercial of this magnitude, generally speaking, you're talking about a full day shoot. However, this commercial was filmed in like four hours. So and that was made possible with, you know, a lot of the pre-planning and the equipment rental that we had to do for the project.
How much time did it take to get it all set up before the actual day that you shot?
About a day.
I mean, not the set up the equipment, but the planning part.
Well, we started talking with Jeanette and Dennis about it, gosh, in late July? Mm-hmm. Yeah, late July. And then, I mean, the thing that always sort of takes sort of the longest is trying to figure out, you know, you have 30 seconds, you know, what can you do? What are the images that you can create? Because you only get so many that really, you know, tell the story of the spirit, you know? And so, the longest process really is coming up with what are we going to do? What are we going to show?
So, you know, let's explore that a little bit because, Zach, one of the things you said was that you wanted that dirt so that you could have a neutral surface. The spirit can be anywhere, not just on a football field. So, and I was struck throughout the process that you were thinking this way all along. And so, what was your thought process on exactly what to put into that 30 seconds? I mean, it's in black and white. Mm-hmm. There's only one little bit of color there. What were the types of things that you were thinking about to communicate how you feel about Florida State?
We wanted to keep it very essential, and there are earlier drafts and earlier ideas where it featured Renegade going through campus, Renegade interacting with other students.
Running through fields, things like that.
And all of these ideas were great, but we realized that they were way beyond the scope of a 30-second spot. And, you know, if it was something larger, if it was an actual movie, you know, we could do whatever we want. But within those 30 seconds, we really had to keep with what was essential. And that the only thing essential was Renegade.
Yeah, and if I can jump off of that, the idea was to, you know, really, really sort of articulate just how much of a symbol Renegade and Osceola really are, and so we had to treat that with the utmost respect. And so a lot of decisions that we made, like the black and white, you know, black and white is seen as, you know, it's almost like a reverent image, you know, and so we were trying to make them not just a caricature of a mascot, but I mean something much, much more than that transcends that and represents a whole culture. So, you know, that was sort of the black and white imagery, and then the all of the footage in the and the spot is in slow motion as well. It lends it sort of, hopefully, sort of a majestic quality to it. And so we were also trying to build up to the grand, the climax at the end, so which is the rearing, which is what any alumni at Florida State University knows is the big deal at the beginning of the football game.
But you lit the flame.
Right. Yeah. The idea was, if you want to talk about that, John?
Yeah, that was actually an interesting thing. We were inside and we couldn't light the flame inside, so that was one of the things we added in post-production. If you take another look at the making of video, you'll see that the spear is never lit, and that's one of the things we had to do afterwards. Bouncing off on what Zach was saying, we had to make sure that nothing in the piece was literal, because if anything was literal, then if we had football players or if we had any of this stuff, then we didn't think it would have been as effective or as meaningful. And I think with the spear being lit, something he was talking about earlier, we almost wanted to make this empty space be the metaphorical 50-yard line, because that's the only place where the spear can be lit. But that's kind of what we were trying to do with this space.
It's really interesting that you almost said movie, because the goal all along was to create something that was very, very cinematic in nature. To create something that felt more like a movie trailer, something that was really, really building for something much more grandiose than a lot of institutional spots are rather. I'm sorry, this probably sounds very simple in nature. It's a simple commercial. You show an image of a school, but we wanted to catch people's attention right off the bat.
Jeanette, did you get what you wanted out of this institutional message?
And then some. It's an amazing experience to work with resources like this and to see a vision come together. And one of the things to compliment is the fact that both imagery and the words came together. So you have that auditory experience, and then you have the visual, and that's why it's so powerful as well too. So we have continued to monitor. We rolled it out with social media with a viral impact first. So if you were on Facebook, for example, you got a sneak preview. And so working with students, faculty, and alumni, we created a national buzz for it. And we have had thousands, in fact, I think 30,000 hits. Last year's spot had something like 7,000. Other universities vary. So we're really pleased with the results, which is that people are talking about Florida State University.
What kind of other reaction have you heard about how people have thought about the video?
I'm not ashamed to say that I've looked at a lot of the YouTube comments, and
we've been through all of them.
It seems like it's really meant a lot to people, and I think that has a lot to do with this culture in this town, and that Renegade and Osceola is something that people hold really close to their hearts, and so it is. I don't want to say it's a delicate subject matter, but it's meaningful, and it's something that's really important to people. And because of that, I think people have a really positive response to it.
Yeah, I think it's extraordinarily positive. And the interesting thing is, a lot of people tell me they feel goosebumps at the end, and that flute is is so heartrending there at the end. And I know you've even been asked whether people could have the copy of that part of the message, because they want it to be their ringtone on their phone. And so do you supply it?
I haven't yet. I was thinking about if that is okay.
Yeah.
But,
I hadn't even heard of that.
Yeah, no, there were people on YouTube saying, I need this.
I need that flute, because it gives them goosebumps right along with that horse rearing. It's fascinating.
The music was quite a process as well. That was something that it seems small, but that was something that we were struggling with for a little bit, was what is sort of the final note, how are we going out on this with the music, because it's all image and voiceover, and so the music has to play such a hefty role.
So now if you step back to your College of Motion Picture Arts, is this typical to do something that isn't just an academic exercise?
It's definitely not typical for the type of project it was, and that we normally don't do things. And this isn't necessarily something that's commercial, but in terms of you know, in terms of the nature of the project, it was different, but I think one of the reasons that it did go so well is that even though the nature was a little different, it fit in very, very closely to what we had learned. So all of our crew members, they had never done a 30-second commercial, but they know how to work that camera and they know how to do it when making a 6-minute film. So, you know, that was a really nice tie-in. But no, the nature itself was something that was a departure.
What new did you learn from doing this project? Was it just the process of doing something that was not strictly for the classroom, or was it something more?
Well, I think the biggest sort of learning process in all of this, and something that's great, is that this goes beyond you know, our student films that are shown in the Student Life Center. And you know, with a lot of our student films, you know, you are the director and sort of the quote-unquote boss of how that creative process works. And what's been great about this is it's such a collaborative effort. And so you're having to bounce ideas off of other people. Jeanette and Dennis have been wonderful, and they, you know, bringing us onto this. And so, you know, this is something that affected so many people, and so many people had to approve each step of the way, which has been a great learning experience for John and I to get used to that process.
Thank you all for joining us today. We've been talking with FSU film student Zach Johnson and John Wikstrom, and Jeanette DeDeImar with FSU University Relations. When we come back, Dr. Barron and I will talk one-on-one about more issues in education. Welcome back to Issues in Education. I'm Suzanne Smith, talking with Dr. Eric Barron, president of the Florida State University. Dr. Barron, we've been talking about the institutional message, and we just saw it again in that break. What did you think of this year's?
Okay, well, I mean, it's wonderful. It's inspirational. It captures your attention. You know, when we were making comments about how Florida State fans feel goosebumps when they see it, I mean, that tells you something just about how good a job the students did. But think about how to go beyond that, because you heard our students, they had an emotional involvement in the message that they were trying to say, that spirit occurs everywhere, not just on the football field. So that's a very important element. And then you also saw the professional side of it, that our students produced and directed. Our students were behind the camera. Our students were playing the flute. And so that's another element of incredible pride. And then cross the line to realize the involvement of the community. Alan Durham and that wonderful horse Renegade, they're participating, and you see him in the background watching, because of course taking care of that horse is a huge responsibility. And then you take one step further and realize that if you look at every single institutional message out there, there's the obligatory walking through the gates, there's the obligatory you must see students in a lab, and those are the message that cause everybody to get up and go get something to eat during institutional messages. And here's ours that stands out as being so unique. And gives people pause. What is this?
The students had to come to you to pitch this idea. How'd they do?
They did a fantastic job. I mean, I would ask them a question, and they would answer it as if they'd thought through it very carefully, and of course they had. And I said something to their dean and to our university relations staff that is, you know, takes such fine care of our institution's image out there, and they were very appreciative of the fact that I commented that it was very professional. It was truly pitched like you were a client, and of course that's what they have to do to be successful. Having this kind of training where you're not just learning something and then to go apply it, but you're spending your career here at Florida State applying and actually doing this is what makes our College of Motion Picture students and our other students so successful.
This idea of the practical application of education isn't just happening on the College of Motion Picture Arts. It's happening other departments around campus.
In every way, shape, and form. You're watching the College of Business partnering with people in chemistry to create startup companies. You're looking at the arts with the master craftsmen, and hopefully coming to the point where our students and our faculty have galleries that they exhibit, because this is what it takes to be successful. This is our students in music doing competitions to go to Carnegie Hall, for which part of that has to be to develop their plan to market it, to fill the house. In every way, shape, and form, we're trying to make sure that when our students leave here, they're not just well educated, they are doing and capable, and therefore very successful.
Is this a new idea for university campuses, or is this something that FSU is sort of leading the way on it?
Okay, I think the notion is emerging as you begin to talk to employers, as deans and chairs and faculty realize what it takes for students to be successful. This is happening more and more. This campus is being extremely deliberate about it.
In November, the Florida legislature came back to Tallahassee. What do you want them to focus on this year?
Well, you know, we've had 6 years of budget cuts. 2, that's tough. 4, that starts to become absurd. 6, if you want quality, and we know the taxpayer wants quality, then it's time to step up and one way or another find the way to make sure we deliver for the students in Florida.
Thank you, Dr. Barron. That's our time for now. Please join us again next month for more Issues in Education. You can watch the premiere episode of Issues in Education the first Wednesday of every month at 7:30 p.m. That means you can see the next new episode on Wednesday, January 2nd on WFSU-TV. Join us as we discuss the latest developments in higher education happening around the state and across the country. If you have questions that you would like us to address on this program, you can email us at issues@wfsu.org. Again, that's issues@wfsu.org. If you'd like to see past episodes of Issues of Education, head to the President's website at president.fsu.edu. I'm Suzanne Smith with the Florida State University President, Dr. Eric Barron, for Issues in Education. We'll see you next time.
Financial support for the production of Issues in Education is provided by the Florida State University License Plate. Your FSU license plate supports scholarships for students who enrich and contribute to our communities. Special programs, gift certificates, and rebates for first-time buyers online at fsu.edu/mytag.